Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku was forced to placed in class 1B instead of 1A part 1. So before we start, please go check out the author of this fanfic, Unhealthy Author, link is in the description. Also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's begin the video. The screens in the observation center showed the cleaning robots and janitors roaming Battle Center B, trying to sweep up the carnage caused by the fallen zero-pointer. Piles of buildings, rubble, and debris littered the streets, virtually making the area unusable for future students for the time being. Nizu, or better known as Mr. Principal of the highly established Yui School for Heroics, was currently swamped with stacks of paperwork and forms. His tiny little paws moved across the sheet rapidly before moving on to the next. His eyes had heavy bags under them from overwork. Despite his quirk, high-spec, being extremely useful to him for situations like these, he was clearly out of his depth this time. "You alright, Nizu?" A female voice called out to him. He turned around to see Kayama Namiri, or better known by her hero name Midnight, walking towards him. She looked around and winced at the stacks of paperwork surrounding him. "Geez, you're usually done with all of these by now. What's holding you up this year, Kayama-san?" Nizu held up a paw in greeting, his eyes drooping even further, if that was even possible. He tried to maintain his usual playful grin to reassure her but found he couldn't muster the energy to do even that. "As you should know, All Might suddenly decided to join our faculty, but he made the decision so suddenly that someone had to fill out the paperwork to fit him in." Midnight filled in for him. "I bet he hauled his skeletal ass out as soon as he realized. He always was quick on the uptake and now I'm here to pick up the pieces," Nizu said with a tired smile, shaking his head. He wasn't surprised at Midnight's casual mention of All Might's true form. Nizu had successfully convinced All Might that revealing his true form to the other staff at UA would make it easier for him to cover his secret while he was teaching. All of the teachers were shocked at first, but vowed to support him as they thought that the experience and wisdom he had culminated as the number one would be beneficial to the students. "Experience and wisdom, huh?" Nizu snorted inwardly. "Wait till they find out he can't teach anything beyond basic addition." "Well, at least let me help you out a little," Midnight offered. She didn't mind either. She owed Nizu a lot for letting her teach at UA despite her motto being a 18 hero. All the other staff left for the day, Nizu responded, lifting up his mug and taking a sip. Midnight winced when she saw it. That coffee had to be blacker than Aizawa's cold and logical soul. "I still need to send the student roster to Kan-san and Aizawa-san so they can make the acceptance letters." "Then let me handle that," Midnight responded adamantly. She looked at the two folders, both labeled 1A and 1B respectively, and took them along with half of the paperwork. "I'll finish these off as well." "Aizawa-san and Kan-san both left too," Nizu reminded her. Midnight just grinned sadistically and flicked the whip from her side. "Then I'll make sure they listen to me," she winked, and Nizu shivered. Even though he wasn't attracted to her due to his animal physiology, he was already aware of her famous reputation as a sadist. He could only hope that the two would listen to her. "Thank you," Nizu said sincerely and turned back to work. Suddenly, a pink mist surrounded his vision. Before he could do anything, he was already lying on his desk, snoring softly. "He trusts people way too easily." Despite his intelligence, Midnight said, giggling, as she pulled her hand away from the torn part of her costume. She didn't feel right, making him do all the work when he was ready to collapse. She looked over at the forms, and some of them weren't even due until the end of the month. He seriously chooses to be overworked instead of being truly overworked. She picked up the two folders and the stack. The papers towered over her. She walked slowly to balance them, leaving Nizu to sleep in his beauty. She made it over to her office when the stack of papers suddenly wobbled. In a panic, she tried to balance herself to no avail. Like a giant waterfall of disappointment and extra work, they fell gloriously, scattering all throughout the hall and covering the ground in a snow of signatures and overlooked terms and conditions. Seriously, Midnight sighed to herself before picking the papers up. The class roster folders also fell, both open with student information sheets scattered around, but still clustered in the folder. She sorted them back up before one caught her eye. The student profile picture detailed a curly green/black-haired boy smiling awkwardly at a camera with tons of sweat dripping down his forehead. She suddenly remembered him as the kid who took down the zero-pointer with only one punch but got severely injured as a result. That kid's got some crazy guts. With no other thoughts and a shrug, she sorted his file into one of the folders. She picked up another file, a kid named Fukudashi manga she absent-mindedly took note of, and placed it in the other folder. She started again for her office. Class 1B's Dikairu. "I can't believe I'm finally here." Midori Izuku stood at the front entrance of the place that literally held his hopes and dreams. It had been a few days since he received his holographic acceptance letter detailing his prowess at the entrance exam. He was so sure that he would fail because of his inability to gain even a single villain point. He was surprised when the nice brown-haired girl showed up and stood up for him, going as far as to even offer him some of her rightfully earned points. That alone already had him bawling on the floor, which only continued when she said that he saved her. To add to it, All Might had him waiting in anticipation with his speech on heroism before revealing the existence of rescue points and how it tied into his acceptance status. Izuku had played every game, watched every movie, knew about almost every superhero's debut, and analyzed every quirk he saw. Anything to make him believe, to make him feel like a hero. Despite his quirklessness, he never ever gave up. He never gave into the peer pressure, the bullying, the society telling him he couldn't be a hero. And now he was here. Izuku took a deep breath to calm his furiously beating heart. He looked up at the tall building in front of him. The words UA were emblazoned across its front, glinting sharply in the sunlight. He clutched his acceptance letter and student ID card in his hand. He felt like he was defiling the pure and pristine nature of UA by attending here with his former quirkless status and absolute luck in the exam. He shook his head to get rid of the self-deprecating thoughts. No, I spent 10 months training for this. He flexed his toned muscles, the well-rewarded product from the 10 months of hell. And I was given those rescue points at the exam for a reason. He slapped his face twice with both hands and lifted his foot off the ground. Now is the time to take this step towards my dream. Oh, you're that guy from the entrance exam. A female voice suddenly called out to him. Izuku froze, foot still high in the air, his face slowly turning tomato red. He pivoted around robotically to face a girl with orange hair tied into a ponytail. She was wearing the standard female UE uniform. Looks like you made it in after all. Izuku stuttered, his body completely rigid. His hands were sweaty and trembling. I'm talking to another girl. Are you having trouble going through the gates? She asked, looking at the metal door at the entrance. She looked down at his letter and her expression brightened. Oh, you're in the same class as me. 1B. You can face down a huge killer robot but can't talk to a girl? Speak up. Izuku forced his emerald eyes up to her pretty teal ones. Yeah, was that all you could say? Here, let me help you out. She grabbed his student ID card and waved it to the scanner. The metal door immediately unlatched itself and opened up. She smiled at him. Come on, let's walk to class together. Izuku nodded and walked alongside her, inwardly pleased that the scanner recognized him as a student. He calmed himself down and walked forward alongside his new companion. He looked up in awe once he entered the hallways. He knew he had a few days already to process his acceptance, but he still couldn't believe he would be studying at All Might's alma mater. It really is amazing, huh? The orange-haired girl started the conversation again, seemingly knowing what he was thinking about. She looked at the hallway around her as well. We've all heard stories about this place. To actually be here is something else. Yeah, Izuku agreed. He slumped his shoulders down. I feel way out of my depth here. What are you talking about? The girl looked genuinely confused. Back at the entrance exam, that girl was trapped under the debris and I saw you push against the crowd just to save her when no one else would. She nodded her head, already on a roll. You completely blew away that zero-pointer with just one punch too, even if you injured yourself badly in the process. If it means anything to you, I think you're already a hero. Izuku stopped walking and the girl looked back at him in confusion. Tears were already gathering up in the corner of his eyes. He recollected back to the moment when All Might reignited his dreams on the street corner that day. The girl from the entrance exam said that he had saved her, and now he was hearing it again as another reaffirmation. She's the third person who told me that I can be a hero. Are you alright? The girl said, rushing toward him when she saw his tears. Izuku immediately wiped his eyes, embarrassed that she had caught him almost crying again. I didn't say anything to upset you, did I? I'm fine. It's nothing. He looked back at her and smiled before realizing he never gave her his name. I'm Midoriya Izuku, by the way. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. How rude of me. I'm Kendo Itsuka. The now revealed Kendo said. She held out her fist to him. Let's get along, yeah? Izuku looked at her fist and shakily raised up his own to bump it. He jumped when her fist suddenly expanded in size when he made contact. Gotcha. Kendo grinned at him, though Izuku's mind was already running a mile a minute in regards to the obvious display of her quirk. Oh, it looks like we're here. They stopped at a sign that was labeled Class 1B. Izuku marveled at the very tall and wide door. He theorized it was for people whose quirks came with some mutations that altered their size, which would make it awkward for them to go through normal doors. Yue really does think of everything. Izuku gulped as Kendo opened the door, and he followed her in. I hope Kaken and the scary glasses guy aren't here. Class 1B's Dikairu. I implore you to please raise your feet from your desk. Our upperclassmen have used it, and to defile it in such a way is like rubbing dirt on their legacy. Shut it, you extra! Bakugo Katsuki barked at the uptight glasses-wearing classmate in front of him. He leaned down on his seat, pushing his feet further onto the desk to mock him. Who the hell do you think you are to tell me what to do? What junior high did you come from? I am Ida Tenya from Sumai Academy. The elite, as Katsuki immediately named in his mind, responded automatically. And I ask you again to remove your feet. A damn elite, huh? Katsuki said, still ignoring him. He grinned savagely. I'll have fun crushing you into blood paste. Crushing me into blood paste? Elite repeated, taking a step back. Do you truly aim to be a hero? Hi, they were interrupted by a shy voice near the doorway. A short, brown-haired girl stood on her toes, trying to scan the classroom. She pouted. Ah, curly hair-kun isn't here. Are you referring to the green-haired boy from the exam? Elite asked her, walking over to her. They began talking with each other, but Katsuki didn't care about what they said. His mind was already set ablaze. A green, curly-haired bastard? There was only one shitrag that fit that description. Deku. Katsuki's hands started smoking, just shy of fully igniting. He had looked at the entrance exam scoreboards and, while he was pleased that he was first like he expected, he had become angry when he saw the quirkless runt just 5 places after him with the so-called rescue points. Kaken Katsuki felt his arm being gripped. Someone told me that I can become a hero, that it was because of my own effort. I'm going to you. Deku looked up at him, and even Katsuki was surprised at the fierce defiance that blazed in his emerald eyes, whether you like it or not. Katsuki inwardly scoffed when he remembered the day he pinned Deku behind their middle school. My own effort, my ass. You cheated, Deku. The next time I see you, I'll beat the answers out of you. His thoughts were interrupted when the girl yelped. A yellow blob rose up from the ground and unzipped itself, revealing to be a very tired-looking man. You all took 8 seconds to calm down, the man said with half-opened eyes. That isn't rational. My name is Aizawa Shota, your homeroom teacher. He peered around the classroom like the girl next to the elite. Good. It looks like you're all here. Katsuki frowned and finally looked around at the extras around him for the first time, doing a mental head count. He saw a black, ponytailed girl, a boy with red and white hair, a floating set of clothes, and was that a fucking speech bubble floating out of another uniform? Katsuki shook his head and counted the elite and the girl by the entrance as well. 20 students. That meant Deku wasn't in his class. He wasn't sure if he was pleased from not having to deal with him or angry that he wouldn't get his chance to pound his face in for attending the school in the first place. Why am I still thinking about that damn nerd? He's irrelevant now, just like the rest of these losers. We've already lost a lot of time, Aizawa drawled. He ruffled through his yellow sleeping bag and pulled out a bunch of blue gym uniforms. Quickly put these on. We're doing a quirk assessment now. Katsuki grinned again. This would be the perfect exercise to show these stepping stones just who the real number 1 is around here. Class 1B's Dikairu. Izuku winced as most of the eyes were on him, and Kendo as soon as he walked into the classroom. He looked around to see a myriad of faces, but he didn't see Kaken or the scary glasses guy from the exam anywhere, prompting a sigh of relief. Though he was sad that he didn't see the nice girl, he wanted to thank her for offering her points to him. His relief ended when he heard 2 hands slamming on a desk. A gray-haired classmate was growling at another light brown-haired one. Ha! Are you challenging me? I can kick your ass any time I want. Oh, really? The brown-haired boy was undaunted. I'd like to see you try. What's this about fighting now? Another voice shouted from behind Izuku and Kendo. They both jumped and turned around to see a tall man wearing a red skin-tight suit that exposed his chest. A wire came from his white gloves to the pack he wore on his back. He had a menacing expression on his face, only amplified by the upturned sharp teeth at the edges of his mouth. His eyes looked over at them angrily behind the yellow visor. With all of these details, Izuku knew who exactly this person was. You're in the hero course now. There shouldn't be any petty fighting. It's the blood hero, Vlad King. He used to be a part of the military before he became a hero. Izuku tried to keep his fanboying down to a minimum lest he wanted to weird out his classmates on the first day. His amazement soon turned to fear when he was on the receiving end of his gaze. Get to your seats, you two, he barked. Izuku yelped, and went to the nearest open seat he could find. Kendo sat right next to him, only looking slightly shook from the intense hero. Vlad King went to the podium in front of the class, and cleared his throat. Alright, you maggots, welcome to the hero course. I will dash. Before he could say anything else, he was interrupted by a loud die, with the sound of an explosion following afterward. What the hell was that? That sounded like a villain. Don't be silly, this is U.A. No villain can penetrate this fortress. In the midst of class speculations, a shadow of fear fell over Izuku. He recognized that voice from anywhere. That was Kaken. I knew he would be attending the UA, since he got first on the exam. But to hear him so soon dash? You okay, Midoriya-san? Kendo asked, looking at his pale squalor. He gave a stiff nod, making Kendo giggle. You scare easily, don't you? Before his face could turn into a cherry for the 3rd time, he was saved by Vlad King. Shut it, you maggots! The whole class immediately quieted down. Vlad King sighed and pinched his nose. That must have been Aizawa's class now. Damn, he works fast. He looked back up at them again. As I was saying before I was interrupted, this is the hero course. I am the blood hero, Vlad King, but you may address me as Vlad Sensei. I will be your homeroom teacher. Do you understand? He got a half-hearted fanfare back. I said, do you understand? Yes, Vlad-sensei. Better. He nodded to the room. Now then, the people that you see around you will be your classmates for the next 3 years. You better get along with each other. No petty grudges or squabbles will be tolerated here. Do you understand? Yes, Vlad-sensei. Got it in one this time, he chuckled to himself. Now then, it's best if we all introduce ourselves for a start. We'll go from oldest to youngest, so I'll point at you when it's your turn. State your full name, what your quirk does, alongside one fact about yourself. It can be about anything. I'll start first. Vlad King took a deep breath. My hero name is Vlad King, but my real name is Kan Sekijiro. My quirk is blood control, which allows me to manipulate my own blood and use it any way I see fit. My hero costume also allows me to reabsorb my blood so I don't lose any when I use it. The class stared in awe at the powerful description of their teacher's quirks. Izuku had already pulled out his burnt notebook and was furiously scribbling in it, already drawing a simplified design of the teacher's body frame and mapping out potential uses of the quirk. He started muttering his thoughts out loud, but the other students didn't notice. Vlad King put his hand on his chin for a moment. I also own a dog. Next, a foreign-looking girl made her way to the classroom. She had lyrical horns on top of her head and hooves for feet. She gave the class a shy smile. Hi, my name is Sinatori Pony. Birthday April 1st. She spoke with an obvious accent. She pointed to the horns on her head. My quirk is horn cannon. Horns launch from my head. Her smile turned more bashful. My Japanese is not that good since I am from America. Please help me learn better. She ended her introduction with a bow and returned to her seat. She can launch horns from her head? Can she control how far and the launch trajectory? Can she launch more than 2 horns? Izuku muttered some more, catching Kendo's attention. A blonde-haired boy came next. He gave the class a cocky smirk. The name's Monoma Nito. My quirk is copy, which allows me to use other people's quirks through physical contact. I also like French food. Can he copy multiple quirks at once? Can he dual wield and combine them? His muttering was starting to catch the attention of the other students. The brown-haired boy from earlier walked to the podium. Hey all, my name's Subiraba Kozii. My quirk, solid air, can allow me to solidify the air that comes from my lungs. I like old-school superhero movies and games. His smile turned mischievous. I also happen to be better at Street Fighter than Tetsu. You wanna go, bitch? The gray-haired boy, Tetsu, stood up. I'll shove a shoryuken so far up your ass it'll come out through your mouth. That's what they were arguing about earlier. Izuku wondered with a sweat drop as the two students started yelling at each other again. He then proceeded to mutter about Subiraba's quirk. Enough. Vlad King apparently had enough of the argument. Just go back to your seat. Next. Subiraba stuck his tongue out to Tetsu as a black-haired boy passed him. My name is Kaibara Senator. My quirk, Gyrate, allows me to vibrate any part of my body like a drill. To demonstrate, he lifted his finger, and it started to violently swirl in place, prompting the class to stare in awe while Izuku had another quirk, Orgasm. I also like film theory and photography. He returned to his seat. A pale boy with teeth growing from his outer skin replaced him. My name is Hananuki Juzo. My quirk, Softening, allows me to soften any non-living surface. He smiled gently at Sinatori, surprising her. I am also bilingual in both Japanese and English. Nice to meet you all. What did he just say? That he can speak both English and Japanese and English. The transition between words was so seamless and smooth. So, he's one of the smart ones, huh? He's one of the recommended students? He must be good. Izuku looked over and saw Tsunatori giving Hananuki a grateful smile. I wonder what else his quirk can do. A Chinese-looking boy with hair that was tied into a braid took the podium. My name is Rin Hiryu. My quirk, Scales, allows me to grow scales alongside my body for defense, and launch them as projectiles for offense. Though I moved here from China in elementary school, there is still a lot I would like to learn about Japanese culture. He can grow scales from his body and launch them? That's like the perfect all-purpose quirk. How many can he send out? Can he control their launch speed? Izuku was so concentrated in writing down his mutterings that he failed to notice that he was the center of attention in the room now. Izuku, Kendo tried to help him to no avail. Everyone's quirk is so amazing. I can only hope that I can match them. Midoriya. Izuku was so surprised by the shout that he jumped in place. His seat tipped backward, sending him sprawling all over the floor. Ow! Izuku's ears burned in embarrassment as he heard the class laugh at him. He saw Kendo's hand and turned even more red at the prospect of holding a girl's hand, but took it anyway. Are you okay? Kendo asked, trying but failing to contain her laughter. Izuku wanted to die right at that moment. If you're done with the theatrics, can you get your introduction done? Vlad King looked more annoyed at the whole spectacle. Izuku ducked his head and nodded. He made his way to the podium. Hello everyone. My name is Midoriya Izuku. Izuku winced at how his voice cracked. Really puberty? Now of all times, my quirk is superpower. He couldn't just say one for all to them after all. He and All Might decided to give the secret quirk a fake name to register under. no matter how generic it was. It gives me super strength. I also really like studying quirks. Is that what he was muttering and writing about earlier? He was muttering so fast that I first thought a fly was buzzing around our room. He seems like a total pushover. Izuku went back to his seat, red-faced and exhausted. He plopped down on his seat and slammed his head on his desk, ignoring the chuckles from the others. It's just like middle school all over again. A girl with what appeared to be jungle vines on her head walked to the podium. Izuku cracked one eye open and readied his pencil. Just because he was embarrassed didn't mean that he would stop studying other people's quirks. I am Shiozaki Ibara. My quirk is vines, allowing me to grow vines on top of my head to attack. I am also a proud Christian. Those look like a lot of vines. Her quirk must be very versatile. Kendo stood up when Vlad King pointed at her. She gave Izuku an encouraging pat on the shoulder and went to the podium. Hi everyone. My name is Kendo Itsuka. My quirk, Big Fist, allows me to enlarge the muscles in my hands for more power. I also like martial arts, if that wasn't obvious from my quirk. So that's her quirk, Izuku mused, thinking back to when she used it on him earlier before they entered the room. It actually makes sense if she likes martial arts because of it. A girl with very dark green hair, almost bordering black, came up to the stage. Sup everyone? My name is Tokage Setsuna. My quirk, Lizard Tail Splitter, allows me to split up my body in various different parts and make them float around. I'm also a recommended student, so I hope you all can get along with me. Her quirk is a mouthful to say, Izuku thought absent-mindedly. She's the second recommended student? I wonder what one has to do in order to get an official recommendation? Tetsu walked over to the podium and gave a sharp-toothed grin. Hey everyone, I'm Tetsu. I know my name repeats, so shut up and don't ask. My quirk is steel and it does what it says. He raised his arm up and it immediately became the shiny metal. His smile became fiercer. And I'm better than Kohei in Super Smash Bros. Fuck you. Saburaba emphasized his sophisticated statement by flipping him the bird, to which Tetsu responded likewise. Vlad King glared at them, so they didn't do anything else afterward. A boy with white hair and completely pitch black skin replaced Tetsu at the front. I'm Kawaro Shirhai. My quirk, Black, allows me to merge into anything that is the color black. He gave the class a chilling grin. I also enjoy finding out anything that is forbidden or secret, so watch out. The class shuddered at the creepy conclusion as Kawaro was replaced with a boy with spiky hair and a headband. Sup? I'm Setsu. My quirk, Weld, allows me to fuse objects together at the atomic level. I'll just give you a generic answer and say I like training. Awaze was replaced with a girl with brown bangs covering her eyes, almost shaping like a mushroom on the top of her head. My name is Komori Kinoko. My quirk, she seemed reluctant to say anything about it, is a mushroom. It allows me to grow mushrooms, which is good since I happen to also like mushrooms. She bowed down and returned to her seat. A doll-like girl with black hair came up to the podium. She had an emotionless expression on her face. I am Kodai Yui. My quirk is size, which lets me change the size of any abiotic object. I don't really have much to say about myself. She said all this pretty quickly as if she wanted to just get it over with. Her quirk reminds me of a pre-quirk fictional hero that I read up on, but I can't remember for the life of me. A yellow-skinned giant with a bell-shaped head that was peppered with holes went next. My name is Bondo Kojiro. My quirk, Semidine, allows me to spray a glue-like substance from the holes in my head. I also like building and collecting small-scale models. He bowed like the others and went back to his seat. The Yui door must be for people like him. A menacing, green-skinned student took the podium next. He had curved, sharp blades that curved downwards from his face. His hair was styled in a mohawk. His dark green eyes glared at all of them, and Izuku flinched unwillingly. His presence, it's just like Kaken. Name, Kamakiri Tagaru. His eyes were slits, surveying over everyone. He seemed to look at Izuku the longest, making him sweat. My quirk is razor sharp. It lets me produce blades from any part of my body. He demonstrated this by producing a pocket knife-sized blade from his palm. As for me, I will do anything for battle. Battle in heroics is a matter of life and death, for both civilians and heroes, and I have prepared for that. Knowing this, I know he gritted his teeth and glared at all of them. That you all don't have what it takes to be here. What was that? The whole class became an uproar. Izuku winced at the noise and buried his head under his arms. Kendo palmed her face. Why must you do this already? They really are the same, Izuku thought with sweat dripping down his face. Kamakiri, who had his hands in his pocket calmly, didn't seem to mind the ire of the class. He glared again at Izuku, making him avert his eyes. Only people like Kaken can make fearless declarations like that. There was also something familiar about Kamakiri's name, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Quiet down, Vlad King barked. The class quieted down, and he sighed in resignation. And just when I told you I don't tolerate any petty squabbles. Kamakiri glared at the teacher, seemingly challenging him. Vlad King just waved him off and he returned to his seat, bearing the glares of the whole class. Alright, next person. A slightly chubby boy with ice blue hair stood up. He shivered when he accidentally caught Kamakiri's gaze but continued regardless. I am Shota Nirenjiki. My quirk, Twin Impact, allows me to remotely land a second hit several times greater than the first at any time. I also like boxing. He sat back down as a girl with silver hair and droopy eyes went to the podium. My name is Yanagi Reiko. My quirk Poltergeist allows me to telepathically move objects close to me. I happen to like anything supernatural. She said all of this in a lethargic tone as if she was ready to fall asleep on the spot. The last student, a hairy and bulky boy with thick glasses, went up. Looks like we are saving the best for last. My name is Shishida Jirota. My quirk, Beast, permits me to alter myself into a beast version of myself. I find perusing the dictionary to be relaxing, and I endeavor to elevate my relationship with you all. With that, all of the students had introduced themselves in some form or another. Vlad King cleared his throat. Now that we got that out of the way, put these on. He rummaged through the pack on his back and pulled out a bunch of blue gym uniforms. We're going to do a little assessment for you greenies. Your trials in the hero course start now. Wait, what? Subiraba asked, startled. Already? Now that's what I'm talking about. Tetsu slammed his fists together, already fired up. What about the entrance ceremony? Hananuki asked calmly. We don't do any of that nonsense here. Vlad King slammed his hands on the podium, making the class jump. Did you have wax in your ears before? I told you that this is the hero course. We aren't going to coddle you or hold back, so I'll say it again. He gave them all a bloodthirsty grin, making Izuku gulp in fear. Your trials in the hero course start now. Class 1B's Dikairu. This paperwork is a killer. All Might slammed his face down on his deck, crumpling a few forms in front of him. He was in his powered-down form, having already done a fair share of his work. It is worse than any villain I have ever fought before. Don't be melodramatic, Niza chided, sipping his tea. An evil glint shined in his eye. You only have yourself to blame for this. After all, you abandoned me to do all of the grunt work for you. All Might's sweat dropped. Niza got him there. Fine, but can you answer a question of mine? Oh? Niza set down the form he was working on. What did you want to know? What homeroom teachers did you assign for the first years? All Might looked down on his desk and clenched his fists. Memories of his time at UA, coming to the front of his mind. Depending on who you get, you will not have an easy start. Wondering about Midoriya Izuku, aren't you? Niza asked knowingly. All Might had disclosed to him the information about his successor because of the trust the two of them built with each other over time. He picked up the folder for Class 1A and flipped through it. He frowned and picked up Class 1B's folder and found Midoriya's profile within it. HM? I could have sworn. Something wrong? And you still haven't answered my question. It's nothing. Niza set down the folders. He gave All Might a sadistic grin as he handed Midoriya's profile to him. As for having an easy start, well, let's just say that won't matter for both classes. Class 1A has Aizawa Shota for their homeroom, and Kensekijiro for Class 1B. All Might spurted blood in shock. Eraserhead and Vlad King? That's right. Niza started laughing maniacally as he picked up his cup of tea. Those human children will know the meaning of true heroism under them. All Might looked at his successor's profile and saw that he was in Class 1B. Aizawa Shota, who expelled the whole class on the grounds that they have no potential. And Vlad King, whose militaristic teaching caused the whole class to drop out voluntarily. Young Midoriya, it seems that you will be facing hardships right from the very beginning. Maybe I should check up on you after all. All Might stood up and transformed into his muscle form. Niza looked up at him with a raised brow. Where are you going? Out for a small walk, All Might responded in his heroic voice. He gave Niza his signature grin. Don't you worry, I'll be back soon. All Might left the office as Niza grumbled. You better come back. I'm not finishing your paperwork for you. The hot sun beat down on Izuku's back as he trudged along with his new classmates to the gym where they would be conducting their sudden assessment. He wore the UA gym uniform along with his classmates, and was currently shaking in fear, already scared of what the results might be. I can't believe we already have to take an assessment. That's the prestigious UA for you. Will we have to use quirks? I'm absolutely done for if we have to use our quirks. Are you alright, Midoriya-san? Kendo asked. Izuku nodded slowly, but his body was still trembling, and his eyes were wide with fright. You look pale back at the classroom as well. I'm just worried about what we'll have to do for our assessment. Izuku replied softly. I know, right? Subiraba cut into their conversation, his hands behind his head and his face contorted into a pout. I thought we'd be taking it easy for the first day. Or, well, half days since today is Sunday. But still, we already have our first assignment. It's better this way, Tetsu countered, grinning sharply in excitement. Getting straight to the point is my style after all. I do wonder what the assessment will be testing us for? Hananuki wondered, also joining the conversation. We've already proved our worth with official recommendations and the entrance exam. What's the point in doing another one? Alright, everyone, Vlad King yelled, ceasing all conversations. We're here at one of our many training facilities and my personal playground, Battlefield Delta. Class 1B stood outside a gated area with barbed wire walls surrounding it. The gate itself had the signature Yuri symbol. Vlad King unlocked the gate, and the class followed him into the empty and open field. Vlad-sensei? Tokage was brave enough to speak up. There's nothing here. And that's the beauty of technology, Vlad King answered cryptically before fishing out a remote-like device from his pack. He pressed the button and the ground started to shake violently. Alarms blared as a sign of caution. All right everyone, step back behind me. What's happening? An earthquake? The ground split open into two as an unknown structure started to rise up from the ground. Vlad King smirked at the gaping expressions of the students. What is this? Izuku wondered as he tried to stabilize his feet against the rumbling surface. He looked at the structure, and his eyes widened in recognition. If you couldn't already tell, this will be your assessment. Vlad King swept his hand over to all of them. The Delta Obstacle Course, commissioned and designed by yours truly. Class 1B looked down in awe. Tetsu, in particular, had sparkles in his eyes. Vlad King just laughed at their reactions. I will be timing each of you, Vlad King explained. There are 4 lanes so 4 students will go at a time. There are also many different sections that will test different abilities. A hand shot up immediately. Yes, Hananuki? Will we be allowed to use our quirks for this, Vlad-sensei? Hananuki asked. Izuku crossed his fingers behind his back, his face sweating profusely. But it was to no avail. Of course you will, Vlad King answered immediately. In fact, it will be a requirement. All of you must show at least one creative application of your quirk in this obstacle course. There are no rules other than you have to stay in your lane. How you deal with the obstacles is up to you. Seriously, we're allowed to use our quirks? That's the hero course alright. Awesome. Man, this will be fun. A commotion immediately erupted among the class. Izuku crouched down in despair. No. He clutched his hair in frustration. Kendo looked down at him in worry. This has got to be the worst situation for me. I can only use All Might's quirk once and then I'll be absolutely useless for the rest of the obstacles. What should I do? Fun, huh? Izuku stopped whatever he was thinking and looked towards Vlad King. He had his back facing the class. You think that using your quirks as you please will be fun? A heavy presence settled over the area. Izuku wheezed and found that it was hard to even breathe. What is this pressure? I can't even stand back up. Out of the corner of Izuku's sight, he saw that a few of his classmates fell to their knees like him. Only Kamakiri seemed unfazed, though there was a lot of sweat falling down his face. Vlad King turned around to face them. His whole demeanor changed. His face can only be described as murderous. Line up, he said simply, a complete contrast to his previous self. His tone was frigid cold. Everyone scrambled into a line in front of him, standing side by side. Izuku managed to crawl to the very end of the line before Vlad King started pacing across from them. So he drew in his icy tone. When the burning building comes down on top of the civilians, he glared at all of them. His footsteps felt 10 times louder than they actually were. When the villain has hostages held at knife or gunpoint, he stopped at the end and stared at Izuku. Izuku himself stared back at Vlad King's eyes unwillingly. He was shaking really badly, and he couldn't turn his head to look away no matter what. Vlad King's gaze demanded absolute obedience. It was like he could pierce Izuku's soul with just one look. Scary. When the civilians look at you with tearful eyes and so much pain when they are depending on your proficiency over your quirks to save them. Vlad King walked back until he was in front of all of them and glared. The mindset you will have for those situations will be that it's fun. As quick as it came, the heavy presence disappeared. The class took one collective gasp for air. Izuku clutched his chest as he breathed in the sweet gift of nature. Right, Vlad King said, nodding, as if he was reassuring himself. His tone was more subdued now. He started searching through his pack. I didn't think I would need this. But all of you need to be taught the stakes of being in this position. As a hero, I mean. He pulled out a red sash. The words dunce were written on both sides of the sash in white. 3 empty boxes were below the capitalized word. UA is commended for its freestyle approach to teaching. Each teacher has their own approach to teaching their students. Mine has this. He held out the sash to them so that they could get a closer look. Judging by the word on the sash, Izuku already had a good idea what it was for. This is what I call the probation sash. To put it simply, whoever has performed what I judge to be unproficient will wear this. In this case, whoever has the longest time on the obstacle course. You might not think that's so bad, but here's the catch. You see these boxes here? Each time you wear this sash, one box will be checked off. Once all 3 boxes are checked, then you will be expelled. Expelled? The class shouted in perfect unifying disbelief. Yes, Vlad King reaffirmed. Your checks will be carried over, so don't think you will get expelled only if you get the sash 3 times in a row. It raises the stakes even higher. Class 1B's Dikairu. Probation sash? All Might was hiding out behind the bathrooms that were near the chain-linked fence and entrance of Battlefield Delta. He was in his buff form. He was currently looking at his successor, who was shaking in fright at the moment. Looks like Vlad King is a strict teacher after all. I know it will be hard, young man. But you must persevere. Yui will not hold your hand at all. But I've seen your tenacity during the 10 months of hell, and I know you can do this. Hi, All Might. Gah! All Might almost reverted back into his base form in surprise. He looked down to see Nizu staring up at him expectantly, his paws behind his back. What are you doing here, Nizu? Searching for you, Nizu answered cheerfully. He looked through the fence and saw Class 1B. I knew you would be here. You didn't have to lie about it, Tashinori-san. Sorry, I only wanted to know how well young Midoriya will do on his assessment. Not to worry. I know you're curious about how Midoriya Izuku is coming along, Nizu said easily, waving off All Might's concern. You only ever saw him use his quirk during the entrance exam. You'll need more information in order to teach him better, though we all know how that's going to go. Please help me, Nizu, All Might pleaded, clapping his hands together. He looked distraught. One for all came so naturally and easy for me, the complete opposite for young Midoriya. It's hard coming up with a lesson plan when we are both opposite sides of the same coin. Of course, all of us teachers have vowed to support you, Tashinori. That also extends for your secret protege. But Nizu raised a paw up before All Might could speak. You will have to be his main teacher. No exceptions. I know your teaching skills are questionable at best at that. All Might hung his head in shame. But it is you that holds one for all and Midoriya's complete admiration in the end. You're still the best person for the job. All Might nodded. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you, Nizu. Teaching is a big responsibility, Nizu continued. It will be a good experience for you. I have a feeling you and Midoriya will teach and learn many lessons together and to each other. They lapsed in a comfortable silence that only two good friends can experience together. Will you be heading back now? All Might asked after a moment. Nizu shook his head. Oh no. I do believe I am quite interested in how Class 1B conquers their first hurdle, so I'll stick around for a bit. I may be a principal that is shackled with many responsibilities, but I will always be a teacher in my heart. And besides, Nizu gripped All Might's suit. A dark and demonic aura started to swirl around him, and he smiled sadistically. Someone has to make sure you go back to your paperwork, you know? All Might laughed awkwardly and turned back to watch his successor, his body trembling ever so slightly. He will never let me live that down. Class 1B's Dikairu. The class chattered on this new development. Izuku just buried his head in his hands. The situation just became 10 times worse. Now that that's out of the way, let me explain what you will be facing in this assessment. Vlad King walked over to the entrance of the course. Here we have a straight track field. It does exactly what it says, so you better get those legs running. Those who have an early start will have more time to deal with the later hurdles. He walked over to a very tall, cement wall. It had footholds, but they were sparser and more spaced out than a usual rock climbing wall. Probably so that others will have to use their quirks to get to them. Here we have our first true obstacle. This wall is completely steep at a 90-degree angle. Though there are some footholds, some are way too far apart for your hand or legs to reach. This will be the first trial where some of your quirks will come in handy. He walked over to what appeared to be a low-hanging barbed wire. This second obstacle will have you crawl under barbed wire. Better be careful or you'll get cut. He went over to a pit that was filled with mud. Unless you don't want to get all dirty, then you can use the hanging bars instead. He gestured over to the bars that were hanging over the mud pit. It was very high up with no ladder to get to them, and the bars were spaced far apart. Again, for quirk usage, Izuku theorized, you'll need to be creative in order to get to those bars in the first place. He walked over to the cement blocks and gave a simple explanation. These cement blocks will be in your lane. Deal with them accordingly. And finally, my favorite obstacle of them all, the Pit of Despair. The class saw a huge pit about 50 feet wide before them. It wasn't a deep drop and had mats on the bottom to soften the drop. There was even a stuffed teddy bear in the corner. Everyone's sweat dropped. What's so despairing about this? There's a special condition to the Pit of Despair, Vlad King said, raising his finger up. Anyone who is able to cross this pit without touching the mats below will get 20 seconds removed from your original time. At that, Class 1B perked up. That was almost a godsend, especially to those whose quirks were perfect for long-distance travel. Izuku looked at the pit, already calculating his chances. Now then, warm up everybody, Vlad King ordered. You'll have 5 minutes before we start. Use this time to warm up your body, warm up your quirk, strategize, whichever helps you. 5 minutes start now. I've got to think about when to use one for all, Izuku thought to himself. He did some of the stretches that All Might taught him during the 10 months of hell. He wanted to do his best, even if he believed his best wouldn't be enough. He remembered the meeting he had with All Might before classes started today. Though the older man tried to give him an inkling of how to control one for all, Izuku was still left clueless. He clenched his fist, his face contorted in concentration. I'm imagining an egg in the microwave, but I just can't put it to practice. The pain from using such a power has put an unconscious fear in me to use it. I can't just overcome it in an instant. This kind of stuff should take time. I should. Are you alright, Midoriya-san? Kendo asked for what was probably the third time today. Izuku snapped out of his thoughts and looked at her. She smiled gently at him. It's just that, you look really constipated, and your muttering is kind of getting louder and louder by the second. I said all of that out loud? Izuku's face burned in embarrassment. He laughed awkwardly to calm himself down, but it wasn't working. Yeah dude, why so nervous? Subiraba asked. He was smiling as if he had no care in the world, though that notion was immediately blown away by his nervous shaking. People will think you are a pushover if you keep acting like this. As if you're one to talk. Tokage came over to them with a teasing grin. You looked like you were ready to piss yourself when Vlad-sensei stared at you. At least Midoriya had the balls to stare directly into his eyes. I'm just saying, with his nervous muttering, he seems like a pushover. So you're the one that made that distasteful comment during his introduction, Kendo said, frowning a bit. I'll have you know that Midoriya-sen actually destroyed the 0-pointer back in the entrance exam, so he's more than qualified to be here. What? Tetsu zoomed to where the group was. Seriously? Are we talking about Battle Center B here? That was you, Midoriya? 0-pointer? What are you guys talking about? Tokage asked, clueless. Hananuki also came over, interested in the entrance exam as well. We had to destroy a bunch of robots with point values assigned to them, Kendo explained. There was this huge robot that towered over all the buildings that the examiners called the 0-pointer, which I'm sure you can guess how many points that was worth. Midoriya-san obliterated it in one punch, though he did get badly injured because of it. That's metal, Tetsu said in awe. In one punch, Subiraba muttered. Damn, Midoriya, sorry for calling you a pushover. Remind me to not get on your bad side. If you can do that, then what are you so worried about? It's fine, Subiraba-san, and the 0-pointer isn't a big deal anyway, Midoriya reassured, flailing his arms about. More people were crowding around him because of the commotion, and his stage fright was acting up. I'm just worried when I should use my quirk. Isn't your quirk super strength? It's like the perfect quirk for this course, or any other situation, Monoma said. Speaking of quirks, I'd like to ask you all a favor. Monoma-san? Well, you all already know about my quirk, so I just wanted to know if I can copy some, Monoma said, rubbing the back of his head. Midoriya-san, your super strength would be perfect. The power to destroy the 0-pointer itself will allow me to copy it. Well, Izuku stuttered, trying to find a way to refuse without sending the wrong intention. Monoma's smile soon became a frown, however. It's not like I don't want you to copy it, but save it. Monoma cut him off with a cold tone. You don't have to say anymore. I don't want to deal with your type. Izuku froze. My type? What does he mean? And what's that supposed to mean? Kendo asked, defending him and voicing out his thoughts at the same time. I just don't want to deal with people who think they're better simply because they have better quirks, Monoma said simply. He may be a stuttering mess, but I won't let that fool me. Now, let's not fight, Hananuki said placatingly, trying to defuse the situation. It didn't work as Kendo and Monoma had an intense standoff. Izuku trembled as he was caught in between the two daunting glares. Don't just stand there, Izuku. Do something. Izuku opened his mouth, but Subiraba already beat him to the punch. Have my quirk, dude. It's no problem for me. Thank you, Subiraba-san, Monoma said, smiling at him. It's good to know that some people are willing to share. Izuku flinched at the obvious jab at him. Doesn't Midoriya have the right idea though? Tokage said, adding her own 2 cents in. Vlad-sensei literally made this a competition for us. Whoever gets last place gets the probation sash. Helping out your opponent increases your chances of getting it. Well, if that is your attitude, Monoma raised up his hand with a cocky grin. His index finger split in two, floating in the air in front of him. Tokage looked shocked. How did you dash? When did you dash? She looked all around her body before looking back at Monoma, giving him an unimpressed look. Dude, not cool. Hey, you're the one who gave me that speech about survival of the fittest. Monoma turned his back on them and walked away. He turned back to give Izuku one last glare. But I wish you luck all the same. Did I just make another enemy? Izuku slumped down, a shadow of despair falling over him. I just can't catch a break today, can I? Don't mind him, Midoriya-san, Kendo said. Izuku looked at her and saw that her hands were clenched. He talks a lot about people acting better than him, but he pulls that stunt with Tokage-san. Besides, she smiled at him, making him look away in embarrassment. I'm sure you had a good reason for not allowing him to copy your quirk. Tweet. They all looked over at Vlad King, who had a whistle in his hands. Time's up. The first 4 who will attempt the course will be Kamakiri, Tsunatori, Bando, and Shiozaki. Guess you better back up your words back in the classroom. Huh? Tetsu said to Kamakiri. Kamakiri just glared at him harshly, making Tetsu step back in surprise. Quit talking shit, Kamakiri growled. I'm not here to make friends or play around. Vlad-sensei was right. None of you have what it takes to be in the hero course. As for backing up my words, I'll let my actions speak for itself this time. You're already talking like that? Kendo said, approaching him. I keep on telling you to be nicer to other people. I can tolerate you, Kamakiri said, his tone softer. He shoved his hands in his pocket and looked away. You at least know the true meaning of battle. The others wouldn't even be able to survive a single day of being a hero. Kamakiri walked over to his lane. Kendo rubbed the back of her neck awkwardly. He's still just the same as ever, huh? Izuku looked at their interaction in wonder. They must have known each other from before. What's his problem? Tetsu asked Kendo. He's just another arrogant fool, Monoma scoffed. Kamakiri crouched in his lane. He's all just talk, I'm sure. Start. Kamakiri exploded across the track field, leaving everyone else in the dust. Everyone's jaw dropped. Subiraba accurately voiced everyone's thoughts. What the fuck? Kamakiri reached the wall first. He grew blades on his palm and dug them into the wall, scaling it while completely disregarding the footholds. He was already through the barbed wire by the time the other three were on top of the wall. Guess he wasn't just talking smack after all, Tokage muttered, scratching her chin. Kamakiri already cleared the mud pit by elongating his blades and curving them to hook on to the bars. He climbed over the stacked cement blocks easily enough and reached the pit of despair. At least there's no way that he can cross that with his quirk, right? Needless to say, they were wrong. Kamakiri grew small blades on both of his feet and flipped himself down. He then ran on the wall to the end of the pit, digging his blades in for more traction. He flipped himself over the edge and dusted himself off. With a 20-second reduction, Kamakiri's time is 40.03 seconds. 40 seconds? Already the bar has been set so high. Monoma didn't say anything, but his shock was evident, even when he tried to hide it. Kamakiri walked past him. He had a bloodthirsty grin on his face. Now do you see the difference between us? Izuku was writing in his notebook rapidly, noting all the creative uses of Kamakiri's quirk while making speculations of his own. Kamakiri-san has such fine control over his quirk. He's definitely just like Kaken. Izuku shivered when he made the comparison. I think I should stay away from him given how my interactions with Kaken tend to go. The mud is icky, Tsunotori said in disgust, trying to shake the mud from her legs. She and Bando tried to reach the bars but ended up having to wade through the pit instead. Shiozaki used her vines to get across. I'm sure we'll be allowed to use the showers afterward, Hananuki reassured her. You all should get your scores now. Once the other three got their scores, Vlad King blew his whistle again, catching everyone's attention. He looked over to Kamakiri, who was standing by lonesome near the chain-linked fence. Now you all see that? That's what I'm talking about with the creative quirk application. I expect all of you to do the same. Now, the next participants will be Monoma, Kendo, Yanagi, and Kodai. Guess it's my turn then. Wish me luck, Monoma said teasingly. Walking over to his lane, Vlad King yelled start, and they ran across the field. Man, this pisses me off, Tokage said annoyed, as she watched Monoma separate his body parts to get over the barbed wire. Though, watching him use her quirk gave her a few new ideas for the obstacle course. Well, he's cunning. If anything, I gotta respect him for that. Izuku was writing more notes. Kodai-san just shrunk those cement blocks while Yanagi looked like she was struggling to float them away. And Kendo-san is amazing with her quirk. Kendo was doing very well. She had used her quirk to expand her hands so that she could reach the footholds of the wall and the bars over the mud pit easily enough. The only obstacle she seemed to struggle with was the barbed wire, but she still was ahead of everyone else. At the pit of despair, she just jumped in casually. I know my limits and there is no way that I can get across that, she said modestly as she received her respectable score of 110.46 seconds. She frowned when Monoma came after and using Tsubiraba's quirk, made air platforms that allowed him to get across the pit and get a score of 103.63 seconds. Alright, the next four will be Tokage, Tsubiraba, Shota, and Tetsu. There wasn't anything that was particularly interesting in this run to Izuku. Tsubiraba and Tokage ended up using their quirks the same way Monoma did. He cringed as Shota jumped in the air and then looked as if he got punched in the stomach. He soared over the mud pit and slammed onto the ground, wheezing all the while the others passed him. But did he just use his quirk on himself? That's dedication. Even with that, Shota still got the current worst score of 135.89 seconds. Then came the part he was dreading the most, his turn. You can do it, Midoriya-san, Kendo said, patting his shoulder. Izuku tried to smile at her, but it ended up looking wobbly. I only have one shot at using one for all. Izuku lined up in his lane and crouched down. The best place to use it would be at the end at the pit of despair. But even with the 20-second reduction, will it be enough? Egg in the microwave. Imagine the egg in the microwave. Start. At that, Midoriya ran across the track as fast as he could, hoping that he would get his chance to prove himself. Class 1B's Dikaira. Midoriya isn't doing too well, is he? Subiraba said after a moment. It was true. With each obstacle, Midoriya was stumbling and making simple mistakes. By the time he was on top of the wall, The other 3 had already left him behind to complete the mud pit. Are you sure he was the one that destroyed the zero-pointer? If this is the best he can do, then I sincerely doubt it, Monoma said. Look at him. He's so arrogant that he thinks he doesn't even need to use his quirk. Look where that got him. Come on, he's not like that. And he did destroy the zero-pointer. I saw it myself, Itsuka said, frowning as she saw him drop down and clumsily go through the barbed wires. Itsuka knew that Midoriya could do better, but his nervous personality combined with his apparent non-existent self-confidence was holding him back. This wasn't the Midoriya she had seen back at the entrance exam. She remembered vividly how he had pushed against her. At first, she thought he was crazy for going towards the zero-pointer, until she saw the girl trapped under the rubble. Itsuka had seen Midoriya's expression while he was struggling through the crowd. She hadn't seen so much determination in someone's eyes before, despite his scared expression. Itsuka was scared too until the more rational part of her mind calmed her down. There's no way Yue will allow anything to happen to her, Itsuka thought during the time. So, she was surprised when Midoriya actually broke free of the crowd and continued running. Her surprise turned to shock when he had jumped and obliterated the zero-pointer in one punch. Her shock turned to shame when she didn't act when he did. She remembered thinking that he must have gotten a lot of villain points with that kind of firepower. Itsuka also recalled being in despair after she got home since she only got 25 villain points, which was way below the cutoff for acceptance. She had actually been focused on helping people during the exam rather than getting any points because of her big sister instinct, as it was named back in her middle school. She thought she failed until she got her acceptance letter and learned the existence of rescue points, which let her place 5th on the exam. Then, much to her surprise, Itsuka had found the same green-haired boy from the exam standing outside of UAS entrance, where she expected a confident young student. He was actually a shy and stuttering mess. It had been such a contrast to what she was expecting that she had been caught off guard. She immediately engaged him in conversation and tried to make the atmosphere between them comfortable, which Midoriya seemed to appreciate. Then they introduced themselves and that was when Itsuka realized. Midoriya Izuku, the person who had placed 6th after her. The person who had solely got by with only 60 rescue points, and nothing else. The rescue points were only revealed during the acceptance. That meant that Midoriya had essentially thrown his whole exam to just save people. If that wasn't heroic, then Itsuka was sure that they were all secretly training to be villains. But now, just what kind of life did you live to make you this nervous, Midoriya-san? Itsuka wondered, watching Midoriya fall face first in the mud. He crawled out of the pit to the cement blocks, where he currently tried to scale them to no avail. And why aren't you using your quirk? Class 1B's Dikairu. Oh god, this is bad. This is really bad. The other 3 had already finished the course while he just arrived at the pit of despair. He looked down at the mats, out of breath and sweating. His whole body was caked in mud, but he ignored that fact for now. He knew he took longer than most to get through the course to this point. Damn it, I can't waste any more time. I have to use one for all here. He crouched down and felt the familiar rush of power go through his legs. A slight bout of fear went through him when he realized how much pain he would be in afterward, but he pushed it aside. SMA. Before Izuku can release his power, he feels his legs get tied up. He yelped in surprise, one for all dissipating from his legs, and was dragged through the ground. He was then hanging upside in front of Vlad King. Midoriya, Vlad King growled. Izuku let out a little eep, in fright. You were just about to use your quirk, weren't you? At Izuku's fearful nod, Vlad King continued. I saw your entrance exam and how you destroyed the zero-pointer. You got so injured that you couldn't continue after that, is that right? So, if you're using that power now at the very end, that must mean that power injures you every time you use it. He figured it out. So, each time you use your quirk, you end up being useless, Vlad King said. Izuku flinched at being called useless. Vlad King's tone turned frigid like before. Are you just going to hold down everyone here when you become useless? Aizawa and I don't see eye to eye on a few things, but if there is one thing we both hate with a passion, it's useless people. With this kind of power, and how you're using it, you can never become a hero. Izuku froze. He was near tears at this point. I'm hearing those words again. I'm sorry son, but without a quirk, you can't become a hero. Useless Deku, your quirkless self can never be a hero like me. You Midoriya, you're applying to the Udade? You have one more chance, Vlad King said, setting Izuku down. Go back to the start of the course. I paused your time during our conversation, but I'm not resetting it. If you use your powers and become incapacitated again, then I'll just do you a favor and give you the boot to expulsion. Expulsion straight off the bat? Midoriya-san, Kendo said in worry. Izuku just nodded solemnly, his hair shadowing his face. He walked off to the start of the lane. Kendo tried to talk to him, but the voice of his own thoughts drowned out the other voices. I have to start all over. My time won't be reset, so I'll most likely be in last place and get the probation sash. But I have to use my quirk once without incapacitating myself, or else I'll be expelled instead. What should I do? Izuku found himself back in his lane and crouched once more. Vlad King is right. If I just use my power like I am right now, I'll just end up being a burden to everyone. At Vlad King's start, Izuku just jogged half-heartedly. Am I really cut out to be a hero, when so many people told me I couldn't? Maybe I should give up. Suddenly, a bunch of memories assaulted his mind at once. You, young man, can be a hero. That curly green-haired boy, do you know him? He saved my life. I'm so proud of you, Izuku. You look so cool right now, you know? If it means anything to you, I think you're already a hero. Izuku started picking up his pace. No, I won't let it end here. He broke out into a sprint. There are people that do believe in me. All Might, the nice girl mom, even Kendo-san. He ran as hard as he could. He could feel his shoes digging into the dirt with each step. I'm not the useless Deku anymore. I'm Midoriya Izuku. He jumped into a crouching position when he was a few feet away from the wall. He could feel one for all rushing through his legs. Whatever fear he had before was completely washed away by his newfound determination. And I'll save people with a smile. Just like All Might. The front soles of his red shoes burst open, revealing that his toes were glowing with red veins of power. Smile, and then he jumped. Class 1B's Dikairu. Itsuka smiled. She saw it. That determination that was in his eyes back in the entrance exam had returned full force here. Smash! Holy Tokage said in awe, stepping back. The sudden gust of wind ruffled her hair. Shit, Subiraba finished. His jaw dropped. Everyone looked on in amazement as Midoriya flailed in the air, screaming his head off. Monoma looked positively flabbergasted. Even Kamakiri's eyes were wide. They weren't focused on what Midoriya was screaming about. They didn't focus on the fact that his landing was probably going to be painful. No, they focused on the fact that Midoriya literally jumped over the whole obstacle course. I told you, Kendo said smugly. I knew you could do it, Midoriya-san. Class 1B's Dikairu. Holy crap, Ayaha! Izuku screamed as he flew over the barbed wires, a good distance between him and the ground. He looked back and saw his broken toes flapping in the wind. I flooded all my power to my toes at the last second. It still hurts like hell, but not as much as back in the entrance exam. He passed the mud pit and cement blocks. He started falling and saw that he would go straight into the pit of despair. I don't have enough air to pass the pit. I need to brace myself. Izuku curled himself into a ball as he slammed into the mats. He cried out in pain as his toes were impacted too. Once he stopped rolling, he slowly picked himself up, minding his injury. Vlad King stood at the edge of the pit, looking down at Izuku expectantly. Vlad-sensei. Izuku didn't know where he got his confidence from, but he was going to use it before it disappeared on him. Izuku wriggled his toes, which screamed in protest, and gave Vlad King a determined grin. I can still move. Vlad King's face scrunched up. Izuku looked up at him in worry as he doubled over, his body shaking. Everyone looked on, dumbfounded, as Vlad King spilled his guts all over the floor. He was still laughing when he went down into the pit and picked Izuku up, much to his surprise and fear. He carried Izuku out of the pit and gently set him down, minding his toes. Now that he ruffled Izuku's hair, Izuku did not know what to feel right now. Is how you proved me wrong. Well done, kid. You sure made me look like a fool. Izuku blushed under the praise. He walked back to the group where he was promptly assaulted by everyone. What the heck, man? Where were you hiding all this power? Why didn't you use your quirk like that the first time? So metal. Guys, give him some space, Kendo shouted. She crouched down and inspected his toes. Are your feet alright? Should we go to the infirmary? I'm fine for now. Thanks for worrying, Izuku said, smiling at her shakily. Before he could say anything else, he was interrupted by Vlad-sensei. Alright, line up. At the authoritative tone, the whole class lined up like before. Now then, I'll have to say that this was a job well done. Everyone blinked olishly at the praise. Don't look at me like that. You all passed the requirements. Even if some needed a bit more prodding than others. Izuku ducked his head at that, embarrassed. But that still deserves some commendation for all of you. But I also did say that the worst one here would be getting the probation sash. That's right, Izuku thought before his eyes widened. Wait, Vlad-sensei didn't give me time. Don't tell me, Midoriya. Will you step up here? Izuku felt dread building up in his stomach. He hated being right sometimes. Izuku stepped in front of Vlad-sensei, his hands clenched, and his teeth gritted together. Damn it! I knew this would happen since I didn't clear the pit of despair. But to hear it now just makes it worse. Your time was 159.63 seconds. Izuku trembled in place. His eyes were closed to keep the tears from falling. Even with the 20-second reduction, he wouldn't have made it. He felt the sash go over his shoulder and clasp at his waist. I'm not a man who goes back on his word, but I won't give you a check because you learned your lesson the second time around. But remember, villains in the real world don't give you second chances. If this was a real situation, you would already be dead. Don't view this sash as a failure, but as motivation to better yourself. And, Vlad King paused and scratched his cheeks awkwardly. And I also wanted to apologize. I tend to say some very harsh things when I'm in the moment. I said all that to get you motivated, but even I realize I went too far. Disregard my previous statement. You can become a hero, Midoriya. Izuku opened his eyes and let his tears flow. Thank you, Vlad-sensei. I'll make sure I'm worthy of that declaration. Vlad King nodded awkwardly. Alright, class is officially dismissed. Go take a shower, change, then leave. Classes officially start tomorrow. Midoriya, go to Recovery Girl to heal your toes. And he fished out a slip and quickly wrote his signature on it. Normally we would do this later, but I'll give you special permission to go to the support course to fix your shoes. It's best if you go early in the morning tomorrow. Izuku looked down at his blown-out shoes and chuckled awkwardly. He took the note gratefully. Yes, Vlad-sensei. Vlad King turned around and walked towards the gate. Kendo looked at him again. Do you need some help getting to the infirmary? Yes, please. Kendo wrapped Izuku's arm around her, making him go red in the process. He then limp-walked to the infirmary, using Kendo as support. Class 1B's Dikairu. That successor of mine almost gave me a heart attack, but then he went and pulled a stunt like that. Since when did you become so cool, young Midoriya? I'll admit, we have a good bunch this year, Nisa said with a smile. How wonderful! I can't wait to see how they will grow as heroes. They saw Vlad King walking over to where they watched the class. All Might raised his hand in greeting. Vlad King! Vlad King looked over and noticed the duo. He changed directions and walked over to them. All Might, sir. I didn't have a chance to say it during your orientation, but you were an inspiration for my squad back when I was in the army. It's an honor working with you and I hope you can rely on me for anything you need. Don't be so formal. We're all equals here in this profession, All Might said, laughing. Though I must say, don't you think you were a bit too harsh with young Midoriya? On the contrary, Nisa said, that was the softest I've ever seen you, Kansan. And you even complimented the class. That isn't your usual style. I decided to change some of my teaching methods, Vlad King responded, grimacing. Nisa nodded sympathetically. You're still bothered about last year, huh? Sorry to remind you. Vlad King shook his head. No. If anything, I should be the one thanking you for the second chance. I won't fail you or this class, not this time. All Might scratched his head in confusion. It was obvious that he was out of the loop for whatever happened between them, and it seemed like a personal matter, so he wouldn't pry. He trusted Nisa had everything under control. Well, don't let us keep you. Have a nice day. Nisa waved his paw goodbye. Vlad King nodded and bowed to them both before taking his leave. Don't you worry, Toshinori-san. Midoriya is in good hands. It brings me relief to hear you say that, All Might said. He felt Nisa grip his hand and he was unceremoniously pulled back to the main building. Let's go now, Toshinori-san, Nisa said cheerfully, the dark aura coming back. We wouldn't want to be swamped in paperwork now, would we? All Might had tears flowing from his eyes. Curse his most hated nemesis that laid on his desk. Class 1B's Dikairu. Izuku rubbed the bump that was growing on his head. Recovery Girl was angry with Izuku for coming into her office for the second time since the entrance exam, so he had an intimate experience with her cane. Afterward, he took a shower and changed into his uniform before leaving. He yawned and his eyelids drooped, already feeling the effects of Recovery Girl's quirk. Thank God it's all over. He remembered that everyone constantly asked him questions back on the walk to the main building. Izuku never thought he would be the center of attention like that ever. It felt nice to him, having everyone praise him instead of bully him like before. Midoriya-san. Izuku blinked and looked back to see Kendo running towards him. I'm glad I caught up to you. Why didn't you wait for me? Huh? Izuku blinked at the prospect that an actual girl waited for him. He immediately bowed his head, red-faced. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were waiting. It's fine, Kendo said, accepting his apology easily. She looked down towards his busted shoes. How are your toes? It's good. Izuku wriggled his bandaged toes through the holes in his shoes. He yawned once more. I'm just so tired from today. Yeah, it really was crazy, Kendo agreed. She let out a huge sigh and slumped her shoulders. I can't believe Vlad King would just single you out like that. That was seriously unfair to you. But then you blew us all away by going over the whole course in one jump. You're seriously amazing, you know that? Thanks, Izuku said, flustered from the praise. They walked together afterward. Izuku and Kendo just talked casually about whatever was on their mind. Honestly, Izuku enjoyed it a lot. Is this what having friends feel like? She's my friend, right? Midoriya-san. Again? Izuku turned back. His eyes widened in shock. Monoma-san? Sure enough, Monoma ran all the way until he was in front of Izuku. He gasped for breath and had his hands on his knees. Kendo immediately stood in front of Izuku defensively. Monoma noticed this, and raised his hands placatingly. Whoa, chill. I'm not here to start any beef, Monoma said quickly. Rather, I want to make some amends. Amends? Kendo relaxed her stance. Izuku stepped towards Monoma. What did you need, Monoma-san? Izuku asked. Monoma held out a yellow bag. Izuku's eyes widened when he recognized that it was his. For starters, you forgot your backpack. I was waiting in the classroom for you until I saw you leaving from the window, he said. Izuku took it and gave him a grateful look. Monoma then scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. And I wanted to apologize for letting my prejudice get to me. We all heard Vlad-sensei talking about how your quirk works. You didn't want me to copy your quirk because you knew I would get hurt using it, right? For that, I apologize for misjudging you. No worries, Monoma-san, Izuku said, waving his arms around frantically, though he was secretly pleased that he didn't make another enemy like he thought. I should apologize for not clearing up the misunderstanding earlier. So, no hard feelings? Monoma asked, holding out his hand. Izuku shook his head and took his hand shakily. They did a brief handshake. You don't need to worry about me using your quirk, no offense, but I kinda like my arms too much, though your quirk really is weird. What kind of power hurts someone that much after one use? It's complicated, Izuku said, a bit of sweat falling down from his face. I can't tell him about One for All. I'm going to have to refine my backstory a bit more. Well, I'm glad that's cleared up, Kendo said, all smiles now. Why did you jump to conclusions so fast? Let's just say that not everyone liked my quirk, Monoma grumbled. Izuku tilted his head in concern, and he waved him off. Don't worry about it. I'm fine now. Can you still apologize to Tokage-san? Kendo asked. You weren't really nice to her either. Seriously? She was the one who wanted to hold me back. Monoma defended himself. He and Kendo had another standoff, though it was lighter than the one before. Monoma caved first. Fine. I'll do it tomorrow. Great. Kendo clapped her hands together. Would you like to walk to the station with us? Monoma thought about it for a bit. Why not? And so, the three went to the station. Izuku pawed at the probation sash. Despite the day's hardships, Izuku thought it wasn't so bad. He had secured his place in Class 1B and proved to himself that he could stand amongst his peers, even with a destructive power. And he even made some new friends, probably. All in all, Izuku finally felt like he was taking his first true steps into becoming a hero. Class 1B's Dikairu. Disappointment. That was all Toguro felt while he was riding the train. His hands were on his sides, clenched tightly. Disappointment. At his class. At the morons that he will have to spend the next 3 years with. None of them understand the spirit of battle. I thought it would be different. Instead, it's just like middle school all over again. An image of Kendo appeared in his head, and his hands slackened. She isn't so bad. She understands. Vlad-sensei too, now that I think about it. That's the only silver lining here. Another image appeared in his mind, of the person who had caught everyone's attention, and whose run in the course was the highlight of the whole assessment. Midoriya. Toguro didn't understand him. How such a nervous pushover like him could still find a way to beat the odds into his favor. The teacher effectively cornered him on all sides. Despite the situation, he still managed to win, in a way. And his eyes in that moment, they were like Kendo's, or his mom's, or even like his father's. Toguro entered his house after he left the station. His mother was in the kitchen, but she heard the door open. Toga, you're back. How did school go? Do you find any interesting people? Toguro adjusted his backpack and went up to his room. He looked at a family photo where his mom and dad were together with a younger version of him. He stared at his dad in particular. His expression was murderous. No, nobody at all. The subway car rumbled softly as the morning light filled Izuku's vision. He blinked and yawned, tears in the corner of his eyes. He wiggled his toes that stuck out from his damaged shoes, garnering a few strange looks from the other passengers. He remembered how his mom had freaked out when she saw his toes wrapped in bandages. It had taken him a long time to calm her down. He looked back at his phone before his face turned bright red. The other passengers shuffled away from him when he started making weird noises. I have a girl's phone number. Sure enough, Izuku saw Kendo's name sitting right above his mother's contact. He clicked on it, and reread the text messages that they had sent to each other. He was surprised when Kendo contacted him not long after he arrived home, and they had a small conversation. They talked about the events of the quirk assessments before texting about whatever was on their minds at the time. Izuku made sure to not immediately answer Kendo's texts lest she thought that he was deliberately waiting for her response, which he totally was in the first place. That's actually really pathetic, now that I think about it. Monoma had refused to give out his number, citing personal reasons. Izuku didn't really understand but hadn't pried in the end. He soon arrived at his destination and walked out of the subway station. He walked towards the UA barrier when he noticed a black hooded figure standing right in front of the scanner. The figure had a notebook that he was furiously scribbling in. Izuku was standing behind awkwardly, unsure of what to do. Excuse me. Oh, the black figure whirled around quickly, startling Izuku. Izuku had to hold in a cringe when he saw the man's face and how chapped it was. My bad. That uniform must mean you're a student here. The man bent down and looked at Izuku's ID, causing Izuku to lean away in response. And you're in Class 1B, meaning the hero course. Thank you, Izuku stuttered, creeped out by the stranger's blatant invasion of his privacy. An awkward pause began between the two of them. The man just stared at Izuku, who was fumbling around with his ID, making him even more uncomfortable. The stranger returned to his notebook but retained his proximity to Izuku. Izuku accidentally showed the wrong side of his ID to the scanner out of nervousness, prompting it to buzz with red lights. "You must be a very nice school to make all these great heroes, huh?" The man spoke up again in his raspy voice. "Yes, all these great heroes." "Yeah," Izuku shakily agreed. The stranger's tone felt off to him, but Izuku just chalked it up to his nervousness. The man seemed to notice this. "Oh, sorry. My face is creeping you out, right?" he said, scratching his cheek and causing a few flakes to fall down. "My quirk does this to my skin, you see, and I don't really like moisturizer. Sorry for offending you." Izuku bowed to him. He was also curious about the man's quirk but held his questions in. The older person just laughed, making Izuku shudder involuntarily. "Can I ask you one question?" the man asked. At Izuku's unsure nod, he continued. "Who is your favorite hero?" "All Might," Izuku answered automatically. "He's always there to save the day." He refused the national award, which shows just how humble he is. "He's my complete inspiration." Izuku blushed when he realized what had just gushed out of his mouth. "I see that All Might is your favorite hero." Before Izuku could say anything else, the man was all smiles again. "Alright, thanks for answering my question. Don't let me keep you. Do your best, future hero." With that, the creepy man walked off, hands in his pocket. Izuku let out a breath that he didn't realize he was holding in. That was unexpectedly intense. Who was that person? Erasing the incident from his mind, he correctly showed his ID to the scanner, prompting the barrier to open up for him. He headed towards the main building. He pulled out the slip that Vlad King signed for him, which also had directions to the support course. The development studios should be on the first floor if I'm reading this correctly. Izuku navigated through the halls until he felt the building shake. He heard the familiar noise of an explosion. What was that? Don't tell me here. Izuku was walking through the halls more cautiously now. A familiar burning sensation rushed through his nostrils and he was startled when he saw smoke trailing out of the corridor. He ran towards it in fear that someone may have gotten hurt. He waved his hands frantically to disperse the smoke around him. He found the room it was coming from and looked up at the sign above. "It's not Kaken. It's the development studios." "God damn it, Hatsum." Izuku flinched at the loud voice that came from the room. "I told you not to cause another explosion. Look at this mess. It's not my fault this time. Power Loader Sensei, you were watching me. You should have told me that would have happened." The smoke dispersed. Shaking, Izuku entered the room and saw that there was a fume hood sucking all of the smoke away. He sighed to himself in relief and looked around at the messy surroundings curiously. For a period of time during middle school, Izuku thought he would try out for the support course if he failed the hero exam. The support course exam was always later than the hero exam due to the number of failed applicants that applied for support right afterwards. All he really wanted to do was help people, and being a hero was the best way to do that. If he hadn't received one for all, then he would have settled for tinkering and helping the heroes survive their dangerous work. In a way, he would be still indirectly saving people in the end. In another life, I could have been here instead. I don't want to insult those that work hard to make our equipment, but I'm kind of glad I got accepted into the hero course instead of here. The door on the opposite side of the room burst open and a pink-haired girl tumbled through. "I seriously didn't do anything wrong this time. You can't blah whoa. Gah." She crashed right into Izuku, sending them both sprawling to the floor. Izuku rubbed his head before panicking. The girl had fallen right on top of him, and he was feeling some very bouncy things, the pink-haired girl said. She looked down at Izuku, who was currently imitating a cherry. "Oh ho, who do we have here? Get off him, Hatsum. Can't you see that you're giving him a heart attack?" Power Loader said, coming out of the door. Hatsum complied, grinning, and got off of Izuku. Izuku's brain did a hard reset, and he got up, head still steaming. Power Loader noticed the probation sash that Izuku wore. "Huh, you're one of Vlad King's students. What are you doing here? The hero course doesn't start in another 30 minutes. A hero student? That must mean hero costumes." Hatsum zoomed towards Izuku. Izuku froze, just staring into her crosshair-shaped pupils. "Oh, Power Loader Sensei, you shouldn't have." "I didn't," Power Loader responded dryly, prying Hatsum off of Izuku. Izuku gave him a grateful look. "Now, what are you doing here? You're not allowed to pester us without any notification from a teacher." "I do have a note from Vlad Sensei," Izuku confirmed, still disoriented from Hatsum's eccentric introduction. He gave the note to the Power Loader, and raised his leg up awkwardly, displaying his shoes. "I was wondering if you could fix these. Damaged gear already?" Power Loader asked in amazement, examining the shoes. "The school year barely started. You hero kids really are crazy. Still, this is nothing compared to what I've seen before. I can repair these in just a moment." "Oh, can I do them?" Hatsum interjected, waving her arms up. "You said you had an important project to work on, right, Power Loader Sensei?" I can even improve them for you. You do realize I can probably fix these in about 30 seconds, right? Power Loader said deadpan. Hatsum pouted and he sighed. Alright, fine. You do need experience in designing some shoe tech anyway. You're always about match this and match that. Shoe tech? I only want them repaired. Izuku tried to protest. These were his favorite pair of shoes after all, and he didn't want to change them in any way. The Power Loader shook his head. Your shoes were damaged because of your quirk, right? Power Loader asked. At Izuku's nod, he continued. Then it's better if you improve them. Unless you're wearing something different in your costume, your shoes can get damaged again if you use your quirk in the same manner, and that'll just be more trouble for us in the long run. Plus, you don't have to worry about Hatsum. She's my recommended student, after all. Yup, she bounced up and down enthusiastically. Though, are you sure that you don't want me to put rocket power soles? Nope, Power Loader said immediately. You are to stick with his specifications only. She grabbed Izuku's hand and led him deeper into the development studios. Oh well, good luck, Power Loader sensei. Izuku looked on in wonder at the second room of the studio. High-tech equipment surrounded him everywhere, and there were many chalkboards with blueprints pinned to them. Unfinished appliances and mechanical parts littered the many tables. In the corner, there was a stand with an unfinished mech suit that was sparking a bit. The hand attached to the suit crashed to the ground unceremoniously. That's what we were working on before you arrived, Hatsum explained, seemingly not minding the broken state the mech was in. Now then, let's go make a baby together. Izuku blushed at the innuendo. Make a baby together. She means an invention, right? Does she even realize what she's saying? They walked to an area with a box that Izuku recognized as a 3D printer. Hatsum held out her hand expectantly, and Izuku quickly removed his shoes to give to her. She immediately got out a tape measure and set to work. She typed her calculations on the computer and placed the shoes in the printer. She looked back at Izuku with another grin. Are you sure that you don't want? Please just fix them, Izuku interrupted. He paused, then reluctantly added, and make them more durable please. Alrighty, guess they won't get the Hatsum May special this time. With a few clicks, the printer set out to work. Izuku watched in awe as many small, metallic hands weaved threads into his shoes. Hatsum kept on adding materials and checking on the computer, making humming noises while doing so. After a moment, the printer shut down and Hatsum presented the finished product to him. Tada! Your shoes with extra durability without a single change to their previous design. After all, a mark of a good support designer is to listen to their customers' requests. While Izuku took his shoes and turned them around, they felt a bit heavier than before, but he was sure he would get used to them by the end of the day. They looked exactly the same as before, save for a few metallic lines that ran around his soles. Izuku felt them, and they let out a satisfying ting. This is amazing. Did you use carbon fiber strings to enhance them? I'm surprised you noticed, Hatsum said, laughing. Izuku smiled at her and checked his phone for the time. The blood drained from his face. I'm going to be late. Izuku hurriedly put on his shoes. Thank you for fixing my shoes. I gotta go. Pleasure to work with you. She trailed off, still smiling. Midoriya Izuku. Izuku answered her before bolting off. Hatsum blinked before grinning eerily. Midoriya Izuku. How interesting. Class 1B's Dikairu. Izuku had made it to class with 5 minutes to spare, much to his relief. Everyone had been given their assigned seats, ordered by their last name. Kendo waved to him from the front of the class, a greeting which he returned. He found himself sitting next to Monoma near the back of the class, who gave him a weird look. Are you still wearing that dunce belt? Monoma asked when Izuku adjusted the item in question before sitting down. You should take that off. Vlad-sensei won't even see us until homeroom tomorrow. Vlad-sensei gave it to me for a reason. I don't want to let him down even if he isn't here, Izuku responded. Alright, settle down. Ectoplasm came out through the big door, prompting the whole class to let out a gasp in awe and Izuku to immediately take out his notebook and fanba. It's time for your math class. That's right. Yui is different from other high schools because every teacher is going to be a pro hero. The rest of the morning went by quickly but contained enough excitement for Izuku because of his chance to finally meet all of his idols in person. Ectoplasm cloned himself to give each student a one-on-one lesson, something that Izuku thought was extremely useful for a class as hard and difficult as math. President Mike ended up teaching English next, a subject that Izuku already had a good amount of knowledge of due to listening to the English channel reruns that had featured all Might back when he had been working in America. President Mike spent the majority of the class trying to hype up the students, or waked Sinatori up to solve a question, to which she would humiliate him by answering perfectly and falling straight back into dreamland afterwards. Biology and modern hero art with Midnight were interesting. Enough said. Soon enough, lunchtime rolled around and everyone was looking forward to the class that made the hero course what it is, Foundational Hero Studies. The excitement only grew when they saw that All Might was scheduled to teach the class. Izuku was walking back from the lunch line, an expression of pure bliss on his face as he was clutching his notebook tightly to his chest. Kendo waved over to him, saving a spot at a table. I got Lunch Rush's autograph. It's official. I'm never letting anything happen to this notebook. Deka. And with that, Izuku's good mood died in a large explosion. Izuku flinched as the explosion narrowly missed his shoulder. Kaken grabbed Izuku's collar and pulled him close, forcing him to look into his smoldering eyes. Izuku dropped his notebook to the ground when he was lifted up in the air. Kaken's hand started to smoke, singing Izuku's uniform. I thought I told you to never show your ugly mug around here, Deku. I knew I would have to confront Kaken when I attended, but I thought I could avoid him a bit longer. Kaken! Izuku gripped Kaken's arm, reminiscent of the time when he was pinned behind their middle school. That action seemed to only infuriate the other boy more. He was acutely aware that the whole lunchroom was staring at the two of them, and tried to break free from Kaken's iron grip. I thought I told you before, Dash. That means shit to me. Izuku could practically hear Kaken's teeth grinding against each other. The familiar feeling of fear ran through Izuku, and he braced himself. How the hell did you cheat? Huh? On the entrance exam. Own effort, my ass. There's no way a quirkless runt like you can even pass, let alone get into the top 10. You bribed some bitch from the inside or something? How did you cheat? Before Kaken could do anything else, he was roughly shoved off of Izuku. He was about to yell before he got an explosion to his face. Izuku fell on his butt, wide-eyed at the whole spectacle. How about a taste of your own medicine? Monoma said, his palm crackling, steel in his eyes. I made sure it was extra bitter. Are you alright, Midoriya-san? Kendo rushed over to the scene and offered her hand to Izuku. He took it gratefully and stood up. Kendo glared at Kaken, who was dusting off his face, and glared right back. I feel like I'm asking that question a lot lately. All of you, desist at once. Your actions are unbecoming of this fine establishment. Izuku paled and stared at a familiar tall boy with dark blue hair heading their way. Oh god, it's the scary glasses guy. Just when I thought this couldn't get any worse. Ah, it's you, Curly-kun. Izuku saw that the nice girl from the exam had come over and glared at Kaken. She was quivering, obviously scared by Kaken's intimidating presence. Geez, Bakugo-san, you shouldn't be mean like that. The small explosions popped off from Kaken's hand. His face was murderous. Get the fuck out of my way, you extras. I have business with that quirkless runt. Quirkless runt? Glasses, as Izuku nicknamed him in his mind, repeated. He made some chopping hand motions towards Izuku. Did you not hear about what he did during the entrance exam? Shut up. He cheated is what he did. Kaken stomped towards them, prompting Kendo to push Izuku behind her and assume a defensive stance. Monoma stepped forward and the two stared at each other, both palms crackling threateningly. I don't care if you can somehow use my quirk. I'll still beat your punk ass out of here. Try it. I dare you, Monoma taunted. Kendo put her hand on Monoma's shoulder. He looked over to her, and she shook her head. I wouldn't fight if I were you, unless you want to get in trouble, she said to Kaken. Kendo gestured over to the teachers that were guarding the exits. They were looking over at the group curiously. And you'd still have all of us to deal with. 4 versus 1 aren't good odds for you, I would say. Kaken looked murderous. He stared at all of them. They were standing in front of Izuku defensively, inadvertently forming a wall. So you're going to hide behind these extras? You're still fucking spineless as ever. Useless Deku! Izuku flinched as the familiar insult struck a chord within him. Monoma stood his ground. Your insults won't work here, pal. I've dealt with people like you before, so I know how you work. As if you're worth my time anyway. Kaken scoffed and turned around, his hands in his pockets. This isn't over, Deku. I'll find out how you cheated and put you in your rightful place. The group relaxed when they saw Kaken walk away. And one more thing. They tensed up when Kaken stopped and looked over his shoulder. That sash suits you, dumbass. He walked out of the lunchroom, ignoring the concerned looks the staff gave him as he passed by. Izuku breathed out heavily, his cheeks red and shoulders hunched over. His face was sweaty and his uniform was practically drenched. He picked up his notebook and looked up in awe at the people who defended him. Amazing. They're so amazing. They just drove Kaken off like it was nothing. That's Yuri for you. Izuku looked down at the burned handprint on his uniform and clutched it. I couldn't even do anything. Sheesh. Talk about an explosive personality. The hell is his problem? Monoma asked, rubbing his hand. His palm was slightly red from constantly popping small explosions off. You called him Bakugo? As in the guy who was first in the entrance exam? That must mean he's in the other hero class, 1A. I swear, if all of them are like that. We're not, the nice girl protested. Bakugo's the only one who's a little unhinged. Thank you for helping me, Monoma-kun, Izuku said gratefully, still trembling slightly. Monoma raised an eyebrow at the suffix change but didn't say anything. He turned his head and scratched his cheek awkwardly. Don't look too much into it, Monoma muttered. I didn't do it for you. I just can't stand guys like him. Izuku tilted his head in confusion. He flinched when he heard Glasses talking loudly. I still can't understand how a person like him wants to be a hero. Glasses said. He acts more like a villain. And you? Glasses walked up to Izuku, who flinched under his gaze. Monoma narrowed his eyes and stepped forward before he was stopped by Kendo, who put a hand on his shoulder to keep him in place. Izuku covered his face instinctively when Glasses bowed towards him. You figured out the true meaning of the entrance exam back then, didn't you? I have to say that you're a better person than me. Eh? Izuku peeked out of his fingers. What do you mean? Back at Battle Center B, you didn't even hesitate to save Uraraka-san from the zero-pointer. The nice girl waved, a bright smile on her face. Please accept my apology. My conduct towards you during the exam was unjustified. No need to apologize. If anything, I need to apologize to you for disturbing you. Ida Tenya, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm Uraraka Ochako, the girl you saved. I wanted to thank you for that, by the way, the girl said enthusiastically. She then made exaggerated punching motions with her arm. That punch you did was amazing. That zero-pointer was completely blown away. It was amazing, Kendo agreed. She turned to Izuku curiously. Back to what happened just now. What did you do to Bakuga-san? And how do you know him in the first place? I don't know what I ever did to him, Izuku answered sadly. We are childhood friends from daycare. He just started acting like that after he got his quirk. Friends, Kendo said incredulously, startling Izuku. She narrowed her eyes and put her hands on her hips. Midoriya-san, what Bakugo-san did to you clearly shows that the two of you aren't friends. At least, not anymore. He's your bully now, isn't he? He's not so bad, Izuku spoke up. He looked down, poking his index fingers together. He's just really passionate about being a hero is all. I'm still going to have to disagree with you, Kendo said adamantly. Bakugo-san was being a bully. I'm not going to tolerate his behavior with you or anyone else. If he bullies you again, just tell me, alright? But Izuku tried to argue before he was subjected to Kendo's stare. Fine, but I still think you're blowing this out of proportion. Kendo just sighed, exasperated. Uraraka smiled brightly. Well, I'm glad I finally got to meet you, Deku-kun. Izuku stared at her for a moment. Deku? He questioned. Uraraka looked confused. That is your name, right? Midoriya Deku? I heard Bakugo call you that, and Kendo called you by your family name, so I assumed. My real name is Midoriya Izuku, Izuku corrected her. He looked down towards his feet again. Deku is just what likes to call me since it means useless. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was supposed to be an insult. Uraraka bowed to him. She bounced back up. Though, I still like how it sounds. Deku sounds like that word for you can do it. Izuku turned into a tomato at the prospect of getting a nickname from a girl he just met. Hi, I'm DKU. Dude, seriously? Monoma curled an eyebrow up. Izuku buried his head in his hands, mumbling incoherently. Didn't you just say it was an insult? Don't act so spineless and accept it like that. I think the word you are trying to say is Dikairu, Uraraka-san, Kendo informed her, and I agree with Monoma-san. Please don't make Midoriya-san accept an insult that came from his bully. Dikairu-kun then, Uraraka compromised. Alright. Kendo grinned at Izuku playfully. I guess you'll be Dikairu-kun from now on. Okay, Izuku accepted, his head steaming. In an effort to change the conversation and get rid of his embarrassment, he turned to the two 1A students. Would you like to join us for lunch? Why not? The more the merrier, Uraraka accepted cheerily. Ida also agreed. I would also like to talk about the entrance exam if you don't mind. Sounds like a great idea. Kendo turned to Monoma. Why don't you join us as well? I'll pass. I'm fine where I am, Monoma said offhandedly. Kendo frowned and looked towards the table that Monoma had come from. It only had one tray on it. Looks like real fun over there, Kendo said sarcastically. Monoma sweated a bit as he tried to return Kendo's stare before sighing. Fine, I'll join, he conceded. Monoma picked up his tray and went over to their table. Izuku walked behind the group, stewing in his thoughts. I had to get saved from Kaken. Izuku clenched his fist and brought it up to his face. He sat down at the table where his new companions started discussing the entrance exam and what happened during it. I need to get stronger so that I can fight my own battles myself. I can't keep on bothering everyone around me because of my broken quirk and circumstances. I have to get stronger. Class 1B's Dikairu. Lunch had ended and Class 1B was in anticipation and excitement. In just a few minutes, foundational hero studies would start, and they would finally get a chance to feel like real heroes. Not to mention that All Might would be teaching the class and some of them would be getting the chance to meet the inspiring man in person for the first time. Dude, how can you not be excited? Tetsu shouted at Kaibara, adding on to the noise of the classroom. We'll finally get our chance to become heroes. Not to mention All Might is coming and we get to use our quirks. I am looking forward to this, Kaibara said calmly. I just prefer not to scream it out. I hope we don't have to fight anyone, Bando said, worried. I mostly just want to do rescue trials. But that takes the fun out of it, Subiraba countered, grinning. He sat across from Izuku and turned his chair around to get a better look at Bando. I mean, who hasn't thought about fighting each other with our quirks to see who's stronger? It's like Smash Brothers but in real life. Speaking of using quirks, are you alright, Midoriya? Tokage asked. Izuku perked up at her question. It's just that we all saw what happened in the lunchroom and the class went silent and cringed when they were reminded of the event. Nobody had bothered to go and help Izuku apart from Kendo and Monoma. Bakugo Katsuki, Kodai suddenly spoke up. Everyone looked at her. The person who got first place in the exam. I was in his battle center, and his quirk is a sight to behold. But his personality needs a lot of work. She turned to Izuku stoically. Will he be a problem? Not at all, Kodai-san, Izuku said, waving his hands frantically. Don't dumb it down, Midoriya-san, Monoma said harshly. Izuku was startled at the amount of anger Monoma was showing. He was grinding his teeth hard. That guy's a jerk, plain and simple. How he went through his psychological exam completely unscathed is a wonder to me. Monoma-kun. Izuku saw how Monoma was breathing heavily. He didn't show this much aggression when he was dealing with Kaken. Why didn't you use your quirk on him then? Tetsu asked Izuku. You could have sent him flying with that kind of power. More like he'll fucking splatter his guts altogether, Oe said, turning to face the back of the class. I don't think that shit would fly with the teachers. Everyone thinks I'm so strong. Izuku looked around, surprised. He reaffirmed his determination back from lunch. I may not be strong now, but I will meet their expectations. I'm different now. I won't hide behind people like before. He went straight to you as soon as he saw you? Yanagi asked, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts. When Izuku nodded, Yanagi put her fist in her palm. Then maybe he has a crush on you. Izuku blinked. He vaguely imagined a scenario where Kaken gave him flowers, red-faced and embarrassed, before blowing him up in tsundere fashion. His stomach turned at the prospect. Please don't joke like that. Alright, be quiet everyone. The class flinched collectively at the familiar voice. They all stared at Vlad King, who stood behind the podium. He grinned at their shocked expressions. He looked at Midoriya and gave him a thumbs up. Good to see that you are still wearing the probation sash, Midoriya. What are you doing here, Vlad-sensei? Vlad King looked at Tokage curiously. I'm here to teach foundational hero studies, Vlad King answered. That is what your afternoon classes entail, right? But it says on our schedule that All Might is teaching this class. Schedule? Kendo handed over her schedule to Vlad King. He took a look at it before realization filled his face. He tore the paper in half, shocking the class again. Oh right, I forgot to tell you that I convinced All Might to teach 1A first. You'll get him tomorrow. For now though, he slammed his palms on his desk. You'll be dealing with me. On alternating days, unfortunately. All Might's not coming? Izuku thought sadly. I really wanted to see him though. This is going to suck, Tsubiraba said. This is absolutely going to suck. We're all so screwed. You're overreacting. Aways tried to calm Tsubiraba down. It's still foundational hero studies in the end. It'll be fun. Vlad King's a hero too, Yanagi pointed out, agreeing with Aways. Maybe it won't be so bad? Still excited, huh? Vlad King asked. The whole room gulped in fear as Vlad King gave them all a predatory grin. Looks like I need to fix that. We're so screwed, Tsubiraba repeated. Class 1B's Dikairu. We're so screwed. This isn't what I signed up for. Oh, the pain. Oh God, please help us all. Don't use the Lord's name in vain. The class trailed along behind Vlad King as they jogged around the entire UA campus. They were all in their gym clothes, most of which were already completely drenched in sweat. Everyone was groaning and a few clutched their stomachs in pain. Tsubiraba puffed tiredly, trying to keep up with Izuku and Kendo. Holy shit, how are you guys doing this? My legs are killing me. I did this sort of thing before I came here, Izuku answered awkwardly. His face had a healthy red flush, and he looked no worse for wear. Kendo jogged beside him, looking a bit tired. A few others, like Tokage, Bando, and Tetsu were just behind them. Looks like the 10 months of hell helped with something at least. Kamakiri is totally in his element, Tsubiraba said. They looked forward and saw Kamakiri jogging right beside Vlad King. The two looked perfectly fine and were engaged in a conversation with each other. Now that I think about it, where's Shota? They looked back to see Shota at the very back behind Komori and Monoma. He was breathing deeply as he took heavy steps, falling behind even further by the second. He collapsed a few times but got right back up afterwards. Izuku had to give Shota credit for his determination. We've already got stragglers? This is the hero course. You all should be able to do this perfectly fine, Vlad King yelled back at them. This is what we'll be doing from now on. To be a hero, you must have a fit body to fulfill your maximum potential. Only then you can handle what foundational hero studies truly have to offer you. The class groaned in response. Is that defiance I hear? Exercise is the foundation of becoming a pro hero. With me, you'll cry and bleed. Your body will break, but it will make you stronger in the end. Such inspiration, Tokage said sarcastically. She caught up to Izuku and Kendo, looking as tired as the rest of them. This should be enough for your warm-up. Let's get on to the real exercise now. Warm up? Tsubiraba whimpered pathetically. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.